I never know who I will get to interact with when planning this memorial service. In the past, I usually invite someone to be a keynote speaker. It's usually someone that just because of what they had accomplished, shined a bright light on the LGBT community. This year, my experience was a little different than years past. One of the heroes that we were honoring this year worked for one of our local fire departments. I usually try and find the spouse or significant other of the hero, but sometimes I can't find the contact information. So I reached out to a friend of mine that worked for the same agency. He was friends with our hero and suggested that I reach out to one of our hero's commanders and friends. I contacted, at the time, Deputy Chief Tracey Reed. She was not only the point of contact for our hero, but they were recruit school classmates and close friends. I told her about the annual memorial service. I told her that I was trying to get in touch with our hero's wife. Deputy Chief Reed said to me that she underestimated the bigotry LGBT people face when she was helping our hero through hospice and after her death. I immediately knew that I wanted her to speak at this memorial service. It's always great for the LGBT community to have straight allies. They become stronger allies when they see the discrimination we see every day firsthand. I would like to invite to the stage now Assistant Chief Tracey Reed. Assistant Chief Tracey Reed is the head of the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department's Administrative Services Bureau, which includes the Office of the Fire Marshal, Support Services Division, Human Resources Division, and Policy and Grievance Division. Assistant Chief Reed has served with the Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department for over 18 years and is the first female in their history to achieve the rank of Deputy Chief and now Assistant Chief. Chief Reed.
Thank you. And I was talking to Kim Schoppa's friends. We were talking about what to say, and I have to admit the privilege of having ignorance as a cisgender person was something that I underestimated, like Scott talked about. So Kim Schoppa and her wife, Kim Claren, and I were all recruit school classmates in Fairfax County in July of 2004. And we became close friends, best friends. I remember there was one time many nights I was too tired to drive home, and they lived close to the academy, and so they would let me stay the night at their house. And so I stayed one particular night, and our classmates, the next day they were like, oh, where did they sleep? You know, are they friends or are they a couple? Like, because they just didn't talk about it. They were Kim and Kim. It didn't matter. They were awesome people. They were awesome firefighters. And so I was like, I don't know. I don't care. Like that stuff doesn't cross my mind. They showed me the guest room. I passed out in the guest bedroom. I woke up in the morning. They made me breakfast, and we went back to class. And I never even thought about it. So because they were both named Kim, we often refer to them as Schoppa and Claren, or together as the Kims. And Schoppa really helped me out a lot. My mom went through a cancer diagnosis and surgery while in recruit school, and I wanted to quit. I was not as strong as Kim was, as Schoppa was. And so I talked to my recruit school classmates and my instructors, and they all supported me and said, you know, you can stop coming to class now, and we'll kind of recycle you, and that way you can be with your mom and start with the next recruit school. And I pretty much decided that was what I was going to do. And when I told Schoppa, everybody else was very supportive, and Schoppa said, no, that's stupid. And I was like, well, that's not very nice of you. And she was like, no, you don't have to quit. You belong here. If you leave, you're not going to come back. You need to stay. You need to take the time with your mom, and then you need to come back and let us help you, and we will get you through this. And that's exactly what I did. And I think I made the right decision. Like Scott said, you know, getting where I am now. I actually took the assistant chief process while Kim was in hospice 9 days before she died. So when she went into hospice in 2002, I moved in with her and Kim Claren to help take care of her. And they had the interview, and I was like, there's no way I can go. I have to stay with you. And even though the cancer had spread to her brain and had affected her mental status, she was clear enough to know to tell me, no, just like she did 18 years before, you are not staying here. Get on some clothes, put on some pants for the first time, get yourself dress, go put on the face, and go sit in that interview process. And I did that for her, and I never would have been able to do that without her. Kim was a firefighter. She was strong, very physically strong as a person, and particularly as a firefighter. She was very intelligent, and she was an awesome leader. She was one of those people who would hold people accountable and still be very empathetic and respectable. And most times afterwards, people would thank her for having that difficult conversation because she wasn't afraid to hold people accountable, to tell them what was expected, but she was also a human when she did so. And we had a lot of conversations, the three of us, Kim Claren, Kim Schoppa, and I, about life, about race, about gender, about orientation, and particularly being three females in the fire service, what that was like for us and our challenges. Our department was very supportive. I never experienced or witnessed discrimination related to orientation, and I don't think, Kim and I never discussed, either of the Kims and I never discussed it. And so it was a shock to me. Hospice, I say, was fine. It was hospice, you know, the planning, the doctors. I think a lot because of my position, I kind of bullied my way into a lot of places and conversations that maybe other people couldn't get into. But it was really after her death that it really slapped me in the face and woke me up. We were planning the funeral services, and like I said, I'd already been an integral part of the hospice and the medical care, and there had been no issues for a month. We had been going through all of this. And we needed to secure a large venue in our area that was convenient for family and our department. We are about a 1,400 person department, so we needed a large venue. And we had secured a venue, and I was talking to one of her friends, and she said, "Do they know she's gay?" And I was like, I don't think that matters. She's a fallen firefighter who died in the line of duty. Like, why? And she's dead. Like, why does that matter? I think you might want to ask. Why would I was like, I don't even understand what you're talking about. Again, the privilege of ignorance. Okay, fine, you're a smart woman too, and I trust you, and I will ask the question, and I'm so glad we did. So trying to tiptoe around it, and they were like, oh, no, that shouldn't be a problem. Let me get back to you. And that's when I was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't think this is going to go very well. And so after a couple days of waiting and following up, all of a sudden the venue was not available. And it was a shock to me, and maybe it's not a shock to you. And I was just devastated. And it got to the point of frustration where anytime we went to make plans, I would first phone, hey, okay, my friend, she died, she's gay. Is that a problem? Because don't waste my time. Is that your problem? I'm not even going to continue with this. And I mean, I think I got to a kind of a dark place in having to do that with every conversation. We weren't talking about Kim, the strong fire captain, the leader, the smart individual, the person who gave her life to the service to her community. All that mattered was whether they cared or not that she was gay. And it was just a very depressing time for me to go through dealing with that. I'm very fortunate, though, we were able to secure a venue who was like, absolutely, that's not a consideration at all. You know, for who she was and what she did for her community, that's what we're here to honor. Our local law enforcement was amazing. We had a team of people that helped plan the services, probably 20 people, multi-jurisdictional, law enforcement, fire, and EMS. They planned for things that, again, the privilege of ignorance. When we talked about, they would let me into some of their planning meetings, and then they would let me grieve and be on my own. But some of the things they had to talk about was planning for protesters. I'm like, who protests a firefighter's funeral? And again, it was the privilege of ignorance. But luckily, they covered all of that stuff for us, and I'm incredibly grateful. I'm grateful to have my eyes opened. I'm grateful to it was one thing to say that I was an ally to the LGBT community before Kim's death, and I was, but I don't think I really understood some of the challenges. It was only afterwards, like Scott had mentioned, that really some of the things that people go through that I didn't understand. And being more aware, I think, is the first step to trying to help educate other people. I'm incredibly honored for this service. We've been very blessed to have multiple types of remembrance services for Kim. She was honored as a Fairfax County Fire and Rescue captain. She's been honored as a daughter and a sister, her brother's here, and as a friend. But as my friend pointed out, I was going through this education period after her death. This is probably the first and safe place where she can be honored as a wife, not as a spouse, not as a partner, not as a lifelong friend or special friend. I was shocked at when my eyes were opened and we were watching different news channels, and her friend would say, watch this news channel. they're not going to say the word wife. Watch this one. They're going to edit the comments that you already made that referred to Kim as her wife. And again, it was very eye-opening. So thank you for the sacrifices that all of your loved ones have made. I'm glad we're here to celebrate and honor and remember their service and their lives and the way they lived, not just the way they died. And to honor my friend, my best friend, Kim Schoppa, wife of Kim Claren. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Reed. Can I please have Laura Laydon to the stage, please? Laura was a friend of Captain Schoppa and will be sharing her story.
Basically, she talked about the fire. I'm going to talk about the fierce. All right. What can I say? We're among friends, right? We're family, right? A lot of us danced that song a long, long time ago. Kim Schoppa was a gay girl's dream. She was all fine, showing up at the hung jury downtown, riding her motorcycle with her pool cue stuck in the back of her leather jacket. I mean, come on. Who could have resisted her? Least of all, her wife of 28 years, Kim Claren. In the LGBTQ community, the L comes first. For Captain Schoppa, she was not only a lesbian, but she was a leader. So it makes sense that her L leads. She was the perfect recruitment poster for anything, just walking around being herself with her own special swagger. Want a perfect specimen of a firefighter? Captain Schoppa. D1 athlete? Check. Rugby player? Check. Soccer player? She got game. Hiker and camper? Hundreds of miles on the AT prove this check. Cross-country motorcyclist? Yup. Want to ride to Alaska? You better take Shope. Country dancing aficionado? Two-step check right there. Oh, and there wasn't a job in the yard, house, garage, or station house that Schoppa couldn't handle or didn't have the proper power tool for the job. Her motto, everything is figure-outable. Schoppa didn't set out to meet any stereotypes. She just lived her life being her true self. She wasn't intimidated by anybody, but she didn't go into any conversation all arrogant and brash. She was just herself. Everyone loved to be with her. My wife and I were lucky enough to spend a lot of time with her and her wife, Kim Claren. They were, and still are, known as the Kims. They were so loving and so sweet together. We were always in love with their love. For essentially her entire adult life, Schoppa was hopelessly devoted to Claren. No matter how afraid my wife and I, and it takes a lot to make this big girl afraid, the Kims would walk down any main street, hand in hand, through the smallest of MAGA country backwaters towns, unafraid to show their love wherever they were, and actually so in the moment with each other that I'm not even sure they noticed that they stood out. And nobody ever reacted with hate towards them. They were proud of each other, and it showed. I remember many gas stations where they would get off their Harley-Davidson Firefighter Edition bikes and quickly be surrounded by a bunch of country boys, questioning their credentials as professional firefighters. Girls, whose bikes are these really? Well, it would take long. At the end of their exchange, they would be sharing station patches, and finally we're giving the Kims the level of respect and admiration deserved as the heroes they are. She's been gone just a year, and we still can't wrap our brains around how the force of nature is gone. Schoppa lived proud and out loud. She played full out, and she never let the best get in the way of better. She was our best, and she made us better. I'm so grateful for this organization has taken the time to remember and honor our beloved Captain Kimberly Schoppa. and the bright rainbow light she brought to the world. She's been honored rightfully by several memorials, but it's different to be recognized by family. And we are family. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We need to have you speak here more often. Joining us today, in addition to Laura, is Captain Schoppa's wife, Kim, many members of the Arlington County Fire and Rescue, many other family members, which is great to see.